This is like a Princess Bride moment. Apparently, we're all Inigo Montoya. You keep using that word. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Well, let me talk to something you said, and I think it's a very good point. I'm glad you made it, and I hope you keep bringing it up. 96 million people in Persia, okay? 96 million. 90% of them report to be Shia Muslims. 15% of the 90% report are being Orthodox or radical Shia Muslims, okay? Most of them males. Do you know what that means? It means there are 13 million recruits for the IRGC. 13 million. Now, what do you propose to do about that? And they're not going to act all regime change and stuff. So there isn't going to be a regime change. Maybe they kill the second Khomeini. If you study the Shias, they believe in the seventh Imam coming back, and they may even think that they're getting close to it. They're willing to die. At least give them credit. At least they believe their version of the faith or their version of religion. They're true believers. So how does Trump get out of this? Joe, I honestly don't know. I think he has sowed scorched earth, his MAGA base, with what he has said about good people like Tucker and others, and then this war. That I don't know that there is a way that you can recover all of that. Internationally speaking, I think that the card that is probably going to get played is probably, this will shock people, Vladimir Putin. It's probably Putin. Something? He is the least radical of the alleged radicals. He's shown incredible restraint in the war against the Ukrainians. So, is Putin willing to go and say, Don, you and I sit down to have vodka? Look, I tell you way out of war, but you have to listen to Vlad. We're going to meet all the people together, and the Russians will bring into war. But you have to make concession, and you must let Russia be part of global community again, as you say. I think that's the trade-off, and I think that Putin can actually pull that off. It's a big chunk of land. It's a lot of people, and if you ask me, that could be one of the ways out.
Mike Church from the Mike Church Show, the Crusade Channel, the King Dude. A legend. God bless you. Thanks for being on the team today. Really appreciate having you.
God bless you, Joe. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Praise be to God in all things. Now it's time for your opinion, your Catholic take. You want to tell me what you think about this or anything else? All of that is now up for grabs at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You can hit watch live stream. By the way, we're also going to put the show notes up here in just a moment to include the Crusade Channel, Dr. Anthony Stine Substack, and everything we've talked about. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. God love you. So what did you think of today's show? Let's discuss that right now in the after show. Your take on the after take. Comment, interact live with me and the team. All you need to do is search for one of our live video feeds on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. Simply search for the Station of the Cross, Joe McClane, or A Catholic Take. I'm looking forward to seeing you and interacting with you directly. It all starts right now. It's the after show.
Welcome back to the after show.
Did something happen to the chat box on YouTube?
The whole stream went down late third segment, so I had to restart it. Yeah, it was down for like 2 minutes.
What in the actual world?
It's funny how that always happens on certain shows.
What is the deal? Bonkers. All right, well, I do apologize. I'm not sure what that's about, but here we are anyway. Good afternoon. Praise be to Jesus in all things. Dr. Stine is back. Good afternoon, Dr. Stine.
I'm good. How are you guys doing again? Lots of heavy subjects today on Friday, ones that are going to possibly alienate people.
Get me fired.
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Yeah, well, I don't know how business as usual is when our tech starts just disintegrating before our very eyes. It's just, today was a tech challenging day, to say the least. But good afternoon, everybody. Rebecca, praise be to God. I completely missed because I had a business call. Rebecca, I would say this. If your job is getting in the way of watching the show, perhaps it's time to quit the job. Maybe you should consider retiring and just watching the show full time as your main gig. Maybe you should consider that. Pray about that. Of course, I'm teasing. Michelle Norling, good afternoon. Praise be to God. Great guest. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, thank you. Jane from sunny Massachusetts. Jacob, praise be to God. Good afternoon. Eileen, good afternoon to you. Praise Jesus. Donald, Damon, PC, T Storm. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being on with us. Appreciate your patience through the tech issues. Sci-Fi, good afternoon. Praise Jesus. Sandy Kirk, welcome back. Douglas, thank you for being on the team. Thank you for being a channel member. It really means a lot to us. Praise be to Jesus and all things. Dr. Bob, good afternoon. Yeah, today, a lot of contentious stories, to say the least. But nothing really gets under my skin more than these arrogant... I do think maybe they think I'm arrogant, and that's probably fair. But I think that just like these neocons, these Zionists, these evangelicals are so stinking arrogant, and it just drives me up a wall to hear their rhetoric. And just anybody who says Christ is King is offensive needs to be banned from the public square permanently. They need to spend the rest of their life in prayer, fasting, and penance. What other stories did we miss this week, Dr. Stine?
I mean, business as usual from Rome. More heterodox appointments, quasi-schismatic nuns getting kicked out of their convents. You know, the usual stuff under Pope Francis. Wait a second.
Wait, hold on. Wait. What was the story about the almoner? The guy who was like in charge of charity or something like that? Like, what was that story about?
That one is one I didn't really report on, but it was another Francis holdover getting promoted to a new position. I didn't dig too deeply into it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a big story." I'm like, "Is it though?"
It didn't look like much of a story to me.
Right, so I didn't cover it because I didn't want to have to sit there and try to figure out what a papal almoner was to begin with, and then explain it to people when he was going to be put in charge of a dicastery that didn't seem all that important on the kind of things that I cover on a regular basis. This wasn't Roach or Fernandez being replaced.
Oh man, it's hard to keep up anymore these days. So focused on all the other nonsense going on in the world, and these appointments are coming fast and loose, and you just don't know who these players are half the time. It's hard to really know. Obi-Wan, good afternoon. Joe, living in New Jersey today, going back home to Dallas. Let's get ready for the next Three Hearts pilgrimage. I got to tell you, I do want to do it again. I hope I can. I really feel like I can do it well. I didn't do it well this last time. I feel like I can get through the whole thing with no major blisters. At least I should be able to. So I'm gonna work on that. But Jacob says, unfortunately, a new bishop in Belleville, Illinois. Don't know who that is either.
Yeah.
Jacob says, I knew the priest in seminary. He is one of the Benedictine monks at St. Maynard in South Indiana, named Father Godfrey Mullen, OSB. Dr. Stine looks younger with less facial hair. Are you going for a young look? Is that what you're going for?
No, I'm going for my barber used an extremely sensitive thing, a trimmer on me when I asked when he was doing the beard trim part of my haircut, and I have extreme allergies right now. I'm on like weapons grade Claritin, and it keeps me from having sneezing fits. But it didn't seem to help when my nose is extremely sensitive, and so it ended up tickling my nose, causing me to sneeze when he was trimming my mustache, which dropped me down to about 3 days of stubble. So he evened it out. Now, thankfully, it'll be back. Mustache will be back in a few days.
Oh, that's hilarious. Weapons grade Claritin. I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, man.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of the cedars up here in Oklahoma, or maybe it's the maples up here shedding their pollen, in the beginning of March, but it's been deep in that season here. Like, I haven't seen it personally, but I've had friends, like Catholic friends of mine on Facebook, post things from the trees in their yard that you could just see, like, the sky is yellow from all the pollen.
Whoa.
And my nose can tell it's here.
Man, that's
It's
rough.
one of
I
the reasons
didn't
why
think
we're
that.
like my wife and I have talked about moving out of Oklahoma. Between that and the tornadoes, we're kind of tired of.
And besides the tornadoes, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Man,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I've been thinking about moving into Oklahoma, and you're talking about moving out of Oklahoma. You got to go towards Tahlequah. The weather's not as bad over there, at least according to FEMA data. That's the corner to be in.
Yeah, I live here and I don't know where Tahlequah is, so
It's northeast near Clear Creek. Check out the FEMA data. That section, for whatever reason, hasn't had a very serious storm in a long, long time. They get far fewer than the rest of the state. I don't know why, but it turns out that's the case. John Paul Sandoval, good afternoon to you. Please do your research on Garabandal. When these kids were in a trance, quotes there, a priest tested one of them by putting his pencil in motion into her eye, and she flinched. Yeah, I remember seeing that video. Kind of troubling.
I saw that too. That was one of those things that made it very hard for me to take any of the rest of it seriously.
I know.
And that's not Garabandal, though. That's not Garabandal. You're talking Medjugorje. That's what that's from.
Was that the one where they were dropping the kid? Like that? Because that was the excuse. They were like, well, they're going to drop baby Jesus. Like, what? What do you, in the apparition, they were going to drop baby Jesus? Like, is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe is that Medjugorje or is that Garabandal? It might have been Medjugorje.
Here we are, by the way, talking about something that will anger people. You're going to get comments in the live chat or later. Oh, but the fruits of Medjugorje.
Well, I've already talked about Zionism and everything else. I'm sure I'm already on everybody's removed me from their Christmas card list by this point. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be winning friends and influencers at this point. But Angelique, blister prevention for your next Three Hearts pilgrimage. Try Creepers toe socks. I had great success with them on the Camino. No kidding. That's a pro level tip right there, Angelique. Thank you. Toe socks. Why didn't I not think about the toe socks? Clearly, that would have been a great idea. Yeah. My problem was the biggest blister I had was on the bottom of my left foot. The entirety of my left foot became one giant blister because my boots were totally shot. I need to throw them away and buy new ones. I'm going to buy new ones like a month before Three Hearts. I should be able to get through it without any issues. That's my philosophy. There's no excuse for a 52-year-old man not to walk 40 miles without a single blister. My pride refuses to accept that. So we're going to go for it again this year, hopefully. Tradish Mom, good afternoon. Rosie, good afternoon. James, 16897, praise be to God. Glad you're on the team. Thank you for doing it. White Wolf is back. Good afternoon, White Wolf.
Joe, your logic there was very similar to that of the once saved always saved crowd. That they're gonna get whisked away in the rapture and not have to deal with the tribulation.
It's like that's wishful thinking. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck with that, right? Good luck. I know it. Hey, Ronnie. Good afternoon. Yeah. Watch Mark McClane. Y'all don't see it. Those little girls were not lying. I have seen the arguments on both sides. Are you talking about, hold on. Are you talking about, what should we talk? Are we talking about Garabandal or Medjugorje now? I'm confused. I don't know which one we're talking about there, but I am not on Team Medjugorje. I'm not. I'm sorry. I would say I'm a fence setter on Garabandal, leaning towards I don't believe it, if I'm being honest. But on Medjugorje, I'm firmly not on the team. Now, I always make an exception. I do not believe anything the seers have had to say about Medjugorje over the past 40 years. However, I know lots of sincere Catholics who've gone there and have come back with amazing stories about the sense of peace, great confessions, vocations, or whatever. I'm okay with all of that. I am not, however, I believe that the message and the messengers can all be separated from the experience of pilgrims that go there. But people generally...
I just have a hard time with the message that says most people go to purgatory these days. I have a hard time believing that.
Hell is empty, don't you know? Hell is totally empty. There's nobody there. Don't you know that? Dare we hope. Mm-hmm. Nathaniel, we're talking about the one that gets the most people mad. That's Medjugorje, right? It's not Garabandal. Nobody gets mad at Garabandal anymore. Nobody talks about it.
Well, you haven't You haven't mentioned John Paul II or Benedict the 16th in a negative way yet. So, yeah,
Why are you trying to get me in trouble today? Like, what else can I do to get myself completely fired, James? James, have me flogged publicly after this. Okay, just hopefully that will keep everybody at bay. Like, if they'll be good enough, like Pontius Pilate, I will flog him and release him. You know, hopefully that is good enough, and they'll actually call for my crucifixion. Damon says Medjugorje was one of the seer was the one that the seer flinched and said that they were going to drop baby Jesus. I'm sorry, you're not going to get me to believe that the Blessed Virgin Mary, Joseph, or whomever in the vision is going to drop the baby Jesus. I'm not going to be on that team. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not because I want to be a jerk or a rad trad or any of that. That's just not believable. That's just not sincere. And it says, going back to work sign, 109 days since the last time I offended somebody. It's not. Now we're going to go back to 1 day since the last time Joe offended somebody. Yikes. White Wolf says, let's hope we can pray JP2 into purgatory. I'm not going to go that far. That's
I make no claim about anybody's final destination, including, Pope Francis, who I spent, the better part of a decade criticizing harshly. Make no claims whatsoever about that, and I don't think anybody else should either.
Yeah, Zena says, I'm confused about Medjugorje. Vocations are many. That's true. Again, I separate what the seers and the visions claim from the experience of faithful Catholics that go there. And even though Satan intended it for evil and confusion, Our Lady might be using it for great good. And I'm okay with that. I really am. But I don't think one has to believe a single syllable ever uttered by the visionaries to also accept the beautiful things that might happen in the lives of pilgrims that go there these days. I just don't
Strictly speaking, the only part of private revelation that you are required to believe when it's approved by the Church are things that pertain to that pertain to normal Catholics, meaning to whatever your state in life is, that are not conflicting in any way with the faith, which generally is in every one of these messages from any, Fatima and all the rest of them, are things like repent, do acts of penance, things you don't need the Virgin Mary to tell you to do anyway.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My first Saturday's devotion is specific because it touches on a devotion. I don't know if that's covered by that, but I do think that any Catholic worth their salt should at least attempt to complete the 5 First Saturdays devotion once in their life.
100%.
But,
Yeah. We make every first Saturday sort of our priority as a family. We try to go every single first Saturday all year long, every year. That's kind of our thing. But nonetheless, there are occasions where we have missed a first Saturday along the way. It just is what it is. But we just built it into our habit. Anna's got 109 days until you retire. Oh, my bad. Well, congratulations. You're close. You are super close. What are you going to do when you retire? Are you going to pick up like skydiving or like snake handling? Like what like milking poisonous or venomous spiders in Australia? Like what's the plan? Then she can listen to the whole show live uninterrupted. Well, that would be fantastic. We look forward to that day. That's for sure. I missed a comment. Darn it. I lost it. God is my judge. I would go every day if I could. I used to go to daily mass. It's been a long time since I have been to daily mass. It used to be my practice. Work life kind of got in the way, and I could technically do it now, I suppose. Get up, drive to... I want to go to TLM. That's the problem, though. I don't really want to go to the closest Novus Ordo. That means I have to get up even earlier and drive down to catch it. So I really don't have an excuse. I'm not trying to make one. I really don't have one. I could do it. I just haven't worked it back into my life. So pray for me that I'll get there. Patty, good afternoon. Not one V2. Pope has consecrated Russia properly in union with the bishops. What do you mean, Patty? Are we not living the great age of Our Lady? Isn't this the wonderful Pax Romana now? Aren't we like? Isn't everything perfect and peaceful? Like, I don't understand. Of course,
I like
it's all legit.
I like the idea of a Pax Americana, a Buc-ee's on every corner. I mean,
Amen.
it's not to love, right?
Yeah, that's right. We'll take all the beef we can get, all of the brisket for the brisket we can take. Yay and amen. Not
Clean
it's
bathrooms.
Friday and Lent.
there's
Yeah, well, the bathrooms are nice, but I go for the jerky personally. I'm a big fan of the venison sausage, and the jerky is amazing. The brisket's also pretty amazing. The problem with the brisket, though, honestly, is they won't sell it without all of their seasonings and such, which have issues.
The seasoning, yes, you can get it without the sauce, though.
Yeah. So you can't get pure brisket with nothing else on it, unfortunately, there. But it is very, very tasty. It's like crack. It is like crack.
Why would you want brisket without any seasoning on it? I did that one time when I was doing strict carnivore, and I was like, nope, never do this again.
Well, there's like gluten issues with that, and we're trying to be gluten free as much as we can. But like, I would like to just put salt on it. Honestly, I just want salt. That's it, just salt. Salt. I like salt. I like salt on everything. It's fantastic. It's the greatest of all seasonings. Rebecca says, my biggest problem with Medjugorje is that the seers are bad liars. Guys, I did tell you that I went and saw one of the seers, Ivan, right? I told you that story. He was giving a talk in New Hampshire. I took my oldest son. We were still living there at the time, and I went to it, and he was giving a talk. So we went to go hear him give this talk, and he was telling the history of Medjugorje. Well, lo and behold, right then and there, he goes over to the statue of Our Lady, and he kneels down, and he's there for 15 minutes or something like that. Gets up, comes to the mic, and tells us that Our Lady just visited him, that we were all present during one of her apparitions. And he went on to tell us what she said right then and there. And I thought, that's the most crazy and amazing thing all at once. And it was back in the day. It was like 2005, 2006, something like that. And then fast forward 2008, I leave my corporate job and I work full-time in 501c3 Catholic work. The organization I worked for, which put on massive Catholic conferences that were like thousands of attendees, the biggest Catholic names, that kind of thing. When I got into this conversation with my boss, he told me that he reached out to Ivan, and he wanted to have a conversation with him and try to get him on the team at one of our conferences. His contract required, I think at the time it was like $15,000 for a stipend plus travel. But the good news was the contract guaranteed an apparition during the talk. What does that? What does that tell you?
But I'm laughing at the brazenness of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. When my boss told me that, I was like, but that wasn't the real kicker that changed my mind on Medjugorje. The real kicker that changed my mind on Medjugorje was that every bishop that had overseen this region of the world, every single one, without exception, said, There's nothing miraculous happening in these seers and these visions. Don't come here. Every single one. There was no exception. Now, listen, I know what you're thinking, but Joe, these bishops are bad guys. Maybe, but they're still the bishops. They might be really bad guys.
Every single one.
Right. Yeah, what are the odds? What are the odds there? I don't know.
Besides, we've established that the bishops really like money, and I can come up with ways to like grift off of Medjugorje if I wanted to.
I mean,
I'm sure these guys much more flamboyant personalities and imaginations could come up with ways to do it that would put me to shame. So,
how many parishioners would show up in your diocese because you had apparitions, and that you would? And then you could pass the basket at Mass, and think about the collections. I mean, why would they say no to that opportunity if all they were was corrupt, right? Like, could they be bad guys? It's possible, but at the same time, it's not probable that they're all just bad people, right? And they're out to get, the seers or whatever. The math doesn't add up there. And then what was worse was, and I've told this story in the past before too, but what was even worse than that was my boss had a VHS tape. I was cleaning the office. We had like just files and stuff for years. And because he had been at it for many, many years. And there was this VHS tape, and I'm like, I don't even know what's on this. So I popped it in to watch it to see if I wanted to throw it away. And on this tape was it was almost like a mini documentary. It was more like a news channel report more than anything about this parish out of, I want to say they were out of Arizona, might have been New Mexico, I forget now. The pastor, the priest, took the youth group to Medjugorje on pilgrimage. They got a private audience with one of the visionaries there. Not Ivan. What's the lady's name? I forget her name. Marina? I forget. At any rate, they had this private meeting with this Medjugorje vision seer. They come back to the United States, and lo and behold, the kids begin having their own private apparitions. But that's not all. Wait, there's more. Oh, yes, there's more. Then the priest gets his own mystical vision experiences on a routine basis. But guess how he does it? At Mass, during Mass, he'll be sitting in the presider's chair. And then maybe it's during the homily. I forget exactly where. It's been years since I've watched this. And I gave the tape to a friend of mine, by the way. The priest would get up out of his chair, and this was all on video. The priest walks in front of the altar and the Bugnini table and faces the people and stands like really awkwardly like this with his head down and just says, "My dear children, I'm here today to tell you X, Y, and Z and this, that, and the other thing." He was channeling Jesus. Does that pass the smell test? No. Now that doesn't mean the Medjugorje thing was fake. I still think it is, but that's beside the point. Like, clearly this is a grift. You know what I mean? Like it was just, everything about it just became awkwardly clear to me. Like, yikes. Which means all the more reason why I've had very sincere Catholic friends, people I know and have known for a long time, who've gone there and said, "Joe, I experienced the greatest peace I've ever felt, had the greatest confession I've ever had." You know, it's like, and I'm like, praise God. If that's true, those aren't bad things. Those are great things, and I'm happy for them. But that doesn't mean I'm going to believe the messages or the message of the seers. So anyway.
How dare you, Joe?
How dare you? We need that on a button, James. We need Greta Thunberg. How dare you? On a button for a moment's notice like that. Demons? You think? I'm thinking there's a lot. I'm thinking that is pretty hardcore. Like, and people started showing up. And that was part of the video too, is people were showing up from other states, going to this parish to be present there during these mystical apparitions, so-called. I'm like, it's a setup. The whole thing feels like a complete setup. Hey, Joey Carter, welcome back. My wife says ignore these visitations, accept the firmly certified, no divine mercy, etc. Ronnie, good afternoon. MB Slick, good afternoon. When do you listen to what the bishop says? When do I listen in particular? Like, I think it's a valid question. Listen, St. Augustine addressed this. The bishop can be a bad guy. The bishop can be a bad guy and still be telling the truth and still be in charge of his diocese. It's complicated is the problem, but it's just as Jesus said in Matthew chapter, I think it's 23, if I remember correctly, about the cathedra of Moses, when he's speaking to the scribes and the chief priests. And he tells the people, you know, they have the chair of Moses, so do what they tell you, but don't follow their example. By their fruits, you will know them. So a bishop can be legit and still be a bad guy. So you follow them when they're teaching the truth, when they're teaching the faith. But if they somehow say, for instance, just to throw some oddball example, some arbitrary example, say, hey, you can bless a same-sex couple just to come off with something, then you say, nope, sorry, can't do that. Obviously, that's wrong. Clearly, we can't be doing that. So there's that. Hey, Mark Mallet says hello, Clayton. That's awesome. Praise be to God. Tell him you said hello to you. Did you get to talk to him? You went to his talk. That's awesome. Elizabeth, God bless you. Thank you for being on the team. Thank you for being a member of the channel. It means a lot to me. Perhaps God can do holy work even when this extremely flawed people try to scam the good. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I think that's my position. They could intend it for evil, and God could use it for good. No, you need to update the ACT email. You still say if you have problems with receiving email to send email to Jake. Did I say that in the email? James, I need to be fired immediately.
I agree at this point, honestly, because it affects me and I'm involved and I'm not getting credit where it's due, Joe. I want to be the one to handle your endless emails and complaints. It's the most exciting part of my day.
It is. You're right. You're right. I'm wrong. You're good looking. I'm ugly.
No wonder they're only emailing me, criticizing me.
You're smart. I'm dumb. I see where I've gone wrong. It's funny because the last email I sent, I got an email saying, dude, Jake is still on the banner. I'm like, okay. So I fixed that. And now I got another mistake. So I'll fix that too. I do appreciate you bringing that up to me. Thank you for it. The truth is an offense, but it is not a sin. Yeah. Yes or yes. Ted Cruz with his Christ is King comment is utterly bizarre to me. For anybody who would claim to be a Christian. It literally is. I can't wrap my head around it. In any way, I just don't understand. Even if he believes that Israel is his first priority, explain it to me. It doesn't make sense.
How many of these guys who would say that, by the way, also believe that Christ will reign on earth for 1,000 years? Because you hear Protestants say that, which is also just weird. But how they can say that while also saying Jesus, Christ is not king. Like how do you square the circle there?
Well, they also deny Jesus truly present in the Eucharist, even though Jesus said it 4 times in John 6. They make it up as they go. They just make it up as they go. In Proximus, glad to see you got Mike Church on today. Yeah, that was great. It was first. By the way, Monday, Mike Pentil. I don't know how to say the guy's name correctly. Mike Pentilli? I got to figure that out before Monday so I don't offend him. But he's on Monday. So we're looking forward to that. That ought to be good. James, I was looking something up. What were you looking? No, it is still up. What's still up? The YouTube is up now. We had to do a second stream because James hates YouTube for some odd reason. He loathes it, so he destroyed it.
I do hate YouTube, but I didn't sabotage your stream. Can't take credit for that.
Elizabeth says Ted Cruz probably thinks he's going to be raptured. Good luck. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but Jesus is expecting us to suffer, not get off easy, and not be living quite comfortable lives. His disciples were all, martyrs for the faith, to include John. John was boiled. He lived, but they still tried. He still had to suffer through it. So if he expects that of his disciples, even the beloved disciple, then how much more you who offend him? And he still loves you enough. Mr. Luke, a lot of people go to Protestant because they don't have the discipline for Catholicism and they don't want it. They don't want it. I also think that they don't know better. Honestly, they don't know better. Most Protestants aren't going to Catholic apologists to get, it's interesting because when I was going through my journey, I became Catholic just to get married. I was not at all interested in the Catholic faith, dogma, theology, none of it. She said I had to become Catholic, so that's why I became Catholic to get married. Check the box. And then when she wanted to divorce me, then I was on a wild ride. And being exposed to early church fathers, things like that. I didn't even know that existed. I was clueless. I went to Sunday school as a Protestant. I was clueless about all that. But I remember when I was determined to drag my wife out of the church. listening to all these Protestants, listening to every single word. Like, I just think they're ignorant. Because I was. Dr. Stine, what flavor were you before you became Catholic? What were you?
I was a high-functioning agnostic, basically. Functionally an atheist.
And what was the first seed that got you to consider the Catholic Church?
The way Catholics I knew were living their lives. There was something different about them that was intangible.
So it was virtue.
But you could see it when
holiness.
When they would walk into a room. Perhaps some of the people that led me into the faith aren't exactly the most traditional Catholics you'll ever meet. Some of them are self-described feminists, to be honest with you. But
well, hold on. In their
different
defense,
about them.
you did come from Portland, so even a Catholic feminist is still conservative in places like Portland.
No, no, not really. A lot of Bernie Sanders fans among them. I'll just say that much.
But for Portland standards, that's considered pretty much hardcore Republican. Portland's pretty radical, man. Portland's the communist headquarters of America.
Bernie Sanders is a hero there.
Yeah, not surprised.
So when I remember in like 2004, the mayor's race was down to two Democrats. One of them was the guy that the Republicans were in town were rallying around because he was a quote conservative businessman, meaning he was a capitalist who understood ideas like basic market economics, and that was the guy that was the hope of the more conservatives there than you might actually think. And now the town is a lunatic asylum.
Yeah, I guess that was the point I was trying to make. Is that the place is so far left of center that even a feminist Catholic would look somewhat conservative.
Again, I don't know. Like, the people I knew wouldn't be the kind to be, writing articles for the National Catholic Reporter, but that's not saying much either.
Right. Yeah.
The holistic view of the holistic pro-life view, it would be something they'd all abide by.
Mm. All right. So it was virtue and holiness that got your attention towards the Catholic faith. And then did you discover the early church fathers early in that process, or like, what was that like for you?
Fairly early. I got a copy of an e-reader copy of the complete writings of the fathers. And we're talking like 500 volumes or some nonsense, some gigantic volume, but I got it on e-reader. And I remember reading it for like 2 months, and I was only 1% of the way through it. So whenever anybody actually says they've completed the readings of the fathers, I'm impressed. Like Joshua Charles has actually completed I think he said he has read all the church fathers, and I am very impressed by that because that is a gigantic amount of reading.
Yeah, it is. I remember just feeling like I had been lied to as a Protestant. And I remember being like disgruntled towards like my Sunday school teachers or the pastors or my own family, because like, how could they hold this back from, how could they not tell me about this? I just felt like I was lied to all those years to discover the treasure and the patrimony and the history. Martin, it's like as though the church was just so bad and corrupt and destroyed up until 1500, and finally Martin Luther saves it. And, Martin Luther, who is not only just a heretic, but a heretic likely burning in hell, he just wanted to have sex at the end of the day. He didn't want to feel guilty about it anymore. So he wanted to destroy his own vows that he made. Nobody forced him. Nobody put a gun to his head and said, live chaste and celibate. No, he decided, he chose that. He made those vows himself, and then he broke them. So he broke his word towards God, and then he convinced a whole world to do the same. So think about the ramifications of such a life, such a decision, and then to not talk about that honestly and sincerely. I just felt lied to, and so when I started reading the early church fathers, man, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough of it because it was so bloody obvious that the Protestants embraced. And I think it was, who was it? Mr. Luke. I don't not agree with you here. He says, I want to argue ignorance among a lot of Protestants, but I've interacted with a few that just refuse to accept the church doctrines and history. I mean, it's true. It's very true. In fact, I would say it's not your average Protestant. Most Protestants are just plain ignorant. They just don't know. They don't really know. They only know what their pastor told them, and that's about it. When they read the Bible, they read it surfacely. They don't know, and they don't even have all the books. So they're lost to begin with from a intellectual perspective. It's your pastors, it's your professors, it's your. I would go listen. I met Dr. David Jeremiah. I went to one of his talks, talked to him personally, shook his hand. I used to listen to his exegesis in the Old Testament. I thought it was fantastic. And it's guys like that. They know better. But they reject the truth because why? It's inconvenient to them. And I remember having this conversation with Scott Hahn, Dr. Scott Hahn. He and I were riding in a car. I had picked him up at the airport and we were driving and we got into this conversation. Dr. Scott Hahn is a very unique individual. He would tell me about the phone calls he would get in the middle of the night by big-time televangelists, by Protestant professors, theologians. They would call this guy when nobody was looking, and they would have deep conversations about theology, history, etc. And Dr. Hahn would lay it on them. And they, at the end of the conversation, and he said this to me, he's like, he goes, they would agree that it makes the most sense, but they denied it because they can't deal with the consequences of what that decision means. And
the Bible's full of choices, right?
Yeah, just like the Pharisees, scribes, the chief priests deny Jesus because they can't deal with the consequence of that decision means. Well, that means there's going to be no excuses on the day of judgment for that, right? They're not going to have the invincible ignorance that many Protestants potentially could have because they've never even heard of things like early church fathers. I think it was somebody was saying earlier that, the early church fathers is new to them and they're Catholic, so like most Catholics don't even know who the early church fathers. So it's a difficult issue. It says, frankly, I do partially blame the Novus Ordo Mass for most of my siblings going to Protestant agnostic. Well, that's part of the challenge too for Catholics, right? There was such a post-Vatican II effort to make the Catholic Church look more Protestant, act like more Protestant, feel like more Protestant. For what? If you're trying to be as charitable as possible? Because they naively thought that might bring unity? Well, they were wildly wrong because it hasn't brought unity. So even if that was their motivation, and I somehow doubt that was, but let's just say for the sake of charity that was their motivation, good intention, but really a bad idea, it didn't work. And we've had 6 decades, 7 decades now of destruction and chaos and heresy and all the rest. Thousands and thousands of souls walking away from Holy Mother Church. There's no salvation outside the church, and they're just walking away from it. God help them. God is my judge. The magisterium hasn't made apologetics and evangelization any easier. No, they haven't. They certainly make our job that much harder. That's true. You're not lying. I think it was Jesse Romero made us. Maybe Jesse Romero and Terry Barber. They would say, we're in sales. The magisterium's the management, and we're in sales. And after 2018, I would say they're making our job in sales incredibly hard. A lot harder. Elizabeth says, my late uncle Jerome was told by some army people that if he didn't read the Bible, he wasn't a Christian. So he left the Catholic Church. Well,
but the Catholic Church gives you indulgences for reading the Bible.
Right, exactly. Open up, the first page of the Bible. It tells you about about the necessity for reading the Bible. And it, there's like an introduction, a preface, and it talks about the indulgences for reading the Bible. Not to mention, it was the Catholic Church who gave the Bible to the world. In 150-ish AD, you get the Muratorium fragment, which is just a glimmer of the underground battle, the conversation, the debate that was going on about which books were considered canonical and which ones weren't. They couldn't have a council because they were too busy being martyred for the faith. So they wouldn't get together until the end of the 4th century, and then in the Council of Carthage, and one other one that escapes me at the moment, when they would actually give us the canon of Scripture. But guess what? 150 AD, the canon is the one that's in my Bible. Well, 398 AD, it's the canon that's in my Bible. 1500s in the Council of Trent, which where they finally put the issue to rest because Protestants who hate God attacked the canon of Scripture. The Council of Trent said, nope, these are the actual books, and they always have been. Go back to the Muratorium fragment, go back to the early church. These are the ones, and this is why. And it's the same that's in my Bible, yet Protestants reject that. Why do they reject the deuterocanonical books? Well, they're going to give you one argument, and that argument is because the Jews rejected them after the fall of the temple in 70 AD. Well, the Jews hated the Christians at the time, and they were just, going to reject anything that wasn't written in Palestine and written in Hebrew. So all of the Greek letters, all of the Greek works, they rejected. However, you go through the New Testament, and you look at the actual quotes that Jesus, the apostles, make towards the Old Testament. Guess what? They're from the Septuagint, which is the Greek version, which includes the deuterocanonical works. So all the deuterocanonical works have been valid throughout the history of Holy Mother Church, going back to ancient times, and we keep them in our Bible because that is the tradition handed on from one generation to the next, and that is the right thing to do. So we accept that. Protestants reject that. But here's the other reason why. Kicking out the deuterocanonical books makes life very convenient if you also want to get rid of things like purgatory, indulgences, praying for the dead, intercessory prayer of the saints. If you really don't like those things and you really want to get rid of those things, going with the Jews on the deuterocanonical books is the easy button because it throws out a lot of stuff from the Old Testament that supported all of those ideas. So there's that. But I'm sure I'm sounding really negative towards Protestants. All of my family is Protestant. Do pray for them, as I do. I pray for their salvation, and we should work towards that conversion for the whole world. A lot of them already rejected everything but the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. Yeah. Candlesticks. Magisterium AI just gave a non-existent middle-of-the-road position on the supersessionism, which clearly contradicts the parable of the wicked husbandman. Are we really still using AI to come up with theological responses? Kind of scary. Why are we doing that? Sandy Kirk, what about the Ethiopian Bible that has 88 books or 84? Well, there you go. Go with Holy Mother Church that has definitively spoken on the issue, because she alone has the keys of binding and loosing. Sadly, my church has been closed now for 3 weeks. Water main break. That's terrible. I'm sorry, Dr. Bob. No adoration, no daily mass. Hope it opens up soon. Yeah, me too. Tooth Twister 77. Are you a dentist? Is that why you're called the Tooth Twister? I'm just curious. There are some Catholics who, when asked if they are Christian, will respond, no, I'm Catholic, which is a mistake. They shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, we are the original Christians.
What was the hardest thing for you, Dr. Stine? What was I know I should go down this road, but there's this roadblock. What was the hardest thing about Catholicism for you?
Honestly, this will sound weird for the people who listen to my show on a regular basis, but I was a kind of slightly to the left of center kind of progressive, not progressive, but a Democrat type. And so abortion was the big one for me. Weirdly enough, the gay stuff was not that hard for me to be like, that tracks. Given that it just seemed like the worst people I knew all were were, fellow travelers with James Martin. But
were you okay? So it was the pro-life issue, and when you overcame that issue, and you're Catholic now,
yeah.
Were you at all surprised to discover that many Catholics were pro-abortion?
No, that didn't surprise me, honestly.
Really? It did me.
No. Once I accepted that that there are a lot of Catholics who just find it easier to not take faith seriously, which again wasn't that hard to really see. I mean, being a student of politics, we were talking about the dispensationalists a few minutes ago, right? How many of those guys really seem to have imbibed deeply the logic of Christianity? I mean, if you think about it, it's easy enough to pay lip service to something you believe in, and frankly, we all do it to some degree. I mean, everybody goes through lukewarm phases, at least, unless you're like a living saint from, have been your entire life. Most people go through kind of lukewarm phases, and so I can see people just kind of getting trapped in that. That wasn't that hard. The lack of punishment for the public figures was a little more surprising until I realized that all it really took was looking at things from an institutional corruption perspective and saying, well, the Catholic Church right now has all the hallmarks of the same kind of stuff you see in the political world, of people doing things for the wrong reasons. And once you kind of accept that, then it all fell into place.
Sure.
And the more shocking things for me were things like, you go to like the Sensus Fidelium YouTube channel. Steve publishes homilies that have always, to me, sounded like should be fairly mainstream things. These aren't like some of the more other channels like it out there that publish things from more firebrand priests for the most part. Mostly what Mr. Cunningham does over there is publish fairly mainstream sounding things, at least what should be mainstream. And I remember sitting in a Novus Ordo holy donut hour, as I call it, after Mass, talking to people and mentioning something I heard in one of these homilies. They all looked at me like I was insane. And this was fairly mainstream Catholic stuff about morality or something. I just got looks from other people, except for like the one friend of mine that I usually spoke with after Mass, where he and I were of like mind. It was everyone else thought we were nuts. And my wife, after we moved to Oklahoma, she went to a Bible study, which is a red flag by itself, but at a Catholic church nearby. And somebody at that Bible study was a married women's Bible study, was like, I think Father James Martin is starting to go a little too far. And this was like 5 years ago. And a couple of people around the table, according to my wife, looked at her and said, starting to. So again, because James Martin has been on my radar the entire time I've been doing this work, right? Since 2018.
Isn't that something? Wow.
Yeah, he's been unpunished.
Wild.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Man, oh man. About the abortion issue, when it comes to abortion, it's not that people can't see what it is. It's that people will actively avoid the question altogether. They will avoid thinking about it. They will avoid processing what they're seeing. They will avoid it at all costs. They will focus on what they get out of it. Have you ever noticed that some of the biggest offenders of abortion have always been men? It's not hard to see what the motivation is.
I committed the mortal sin of abortion. I know exactly why we do it, and I talked about that extensively in my documentary film called "The Other Side of Fear." I talked about that experience, and going to the abortion mill. I shared that experience. I've given that talk many times at men's conferences around the country. Yeah, men. I argue that, and this is why like Mark Houck and people like that have put a lot of effort into this men's ministry for this reason. If men were to make the decision that that there will be zero toleration for abortion or contraception in society, immediately, I would argue the vast majority of women, no matter their politics, would change their opinion on the issue. All this talk about choice. Something I say in my own testimony on abortion when I took a young girl to an abortion clinic in 1994. The one thing that she wanted was a choice. She wanted the choice for a man to do what he was designed to do and be a husband and a father. That's what she wanted. Instead, she got a boy who wanted only to feel good for for 5 minutes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like she got a child and she, instead of a man, the choice that she really wanted deep down in her heart was an authentic man. And she didn't get that, unfortunately. It takes two to tango. But at the end of the day, if men be men, real men, then this whole abortion thing wouldn't be even close to what it is. A major industry, billions of dollars, and millions of babies lost. Men are responsible primarily, in my opinion, for the abortion problem. What was I looking at here? I saw a comment and lost it. Babylon Demystified, the proddy troll in the chat box. Hey man, talk about reading a history book, brother. God bless you. You want to read some history? I tell you what, I double dog dare you. Go read the 7 epistles of St. Ignatius of Antioch. Written in 110 AD. Ignatius was a disciple of John the Apostle who stood at the foot of the cross and watched your Savior, my Savior, die slowly for our sins. And Ignatius of Antioch had a lot to say about bishops, priests, and deacons, using the word Catholic to describe the church on his way to being eaten by lions in Rome. Go read the Didache, written in the mid-50s AD. There's a website, earlychristianwriting.com. It's a Protestant website, so that's where I got exposed to other church fathers. Go read the Didache. It talks about baptism by pouring 3 times in the Trinitarian formula. Not immersion like the Baptists like to talk about. It talks about going to confession before receiving the Eucharist on Sundays, which is the holy day, the Sabbath. So, I mean, the early church was so Catholic that it blew my mind. And that's when I got angry and felt like I was being lied to by my Protestant Sunday school teachers, pastors, and family. Because either they didn't know or they knew and they hid it. Because why? Because of arrogance and pride, to not accept the truth. The bottom line is God has a plan and a design for mankind, and you just don't like it. Because if you want to be the Pope, you want to be in charge, you want to dictate what theology is and what is not, what the Bible says and what it doesn't, instead of actually taking it on face value from the way God designed it, you reject truth itself. So God love you, God bless you, but pack sand, pal. God is my judge. No fault divorce and lack of legal authority as a patriarch of the home and family, and the church won't back up fathers either. Well, that's because the church is, many in the church, not all, but many in the church have become too worldly. Candlesticks. Israel's national security minister has made a direct appeal to the United Nations and the international community, urging immediate action to stop Iran's aggressive... What are they being aggressive now? They've just been destroyed, right? Pete Hegseth told us today that they have utterly destroyed their navy, but somehow their navy continues to put pressure on the Strait of Hormuz. I'm confused by that all. It's like, is it this or is it that? They can't make up their minds. Tooth Twister says, I deal with some pretty strange people. Met a psychic vampire once. Would love to get out of... What industry are you in? Did you say? And I lost it. I missed it. What industry did you say you're in?
He makes prosthetics for the entertainment industry.
Seriously? How do you get into that work? That's interesting. Okay, now you got to tell me some. Like, have you made prosthetics for some pretty big time famous actors and what movies? I need to know. I need a list. Tell me your resume. That's kind of fascinating, actually. How does one get into that? How did you start that? Now I'm curious. I'm a tool-oholic. Dr. Bob says. Just teeth. I know, but do you know what you're making for a certain actor on a certain film? I'm just curious. Do they do molds of their face so that you can customize them? I mean, how does that work? Patty, I remember when Dr. Stine had his show start at 4:30 a.m. and sometimes 4 a.m. because he's a night owl. He never sleeps.
It still does start at 4 a.m. It still starts at 4 a.m., at least in 4 a.m. Central. That's what my live stream is.
No kidding. Are you gonna continue to do that for the foreseeable future?
Yeah.
What time do you get out of bed? What time do you get out of bed?
Midnight.
Midnight.
Midnight. Yeah, because if I do my live stream closer to when I wake up, I end up, if I sleep later, I end up having the bags under my eyes are way worse.
Yeah. Well, I know the feeling. I'm kind of glad not to be getting up at 3 something in the morning anymore. Pete Hegseth talks through his hat. Pete Hegseth, he's pretty special, don't you think? How many people have caught the SNL skits making fun of him? It's kind of spot on. It's kind of actually funny if I'm being honest.
I'm hard time with SNL just because their bias isn't very honest for the most part. So, which is sad because I remember when they would make fun of everybody and just brutally take down people in all the political parties and everything. They don't really do that anymore.
I know, but I think it's kind of fun when you laugh at yourself. So I'm hoping Pete Hegseth can laugh at himself. You know, kind of take a joke. I think it's good. I mean, I just think it's funny. They're kind of making fun of his brotude. Low key, good afternoon to you. Thanks for being on. Truth doesn't change, says Paul. Yea and amen. I totally agree. Truth never, ever changes. Mary, good afternoon to you. Praise be to Jesus. At least you will then have a great relationship with the Vatican again. What? For all those who complain constantly about Trump, we shall see how Catholics and their policies do under Harris and AOC. I think it's a false argument, though. Just because Donald Trump is better than the other side isn't good enough. I mean, we got to stop that. It's not helpful.
I also don't think that Harris and AOC are going to win. Like, I just don't.
I don't believe any of those polls. That was like that in the last election cycle.
But just because, I mean, like, we act like it's like the ultimate wild card. But Trump is better than the other one. And that doesn't mean Trump shouldn't be as good as he needs to be, must be, should be. Just because he's better now than the other's team doesn't mean he shouldn't be better at being Donald Trump, who God called him to be. Donald Trump needs to be pro-life, not just say it. He ain't. He's not pro-life. Joe, he overturned Roe v. Wade. Then why is he promoting mifepristone? Then why is he ending the lawsuits against mifepristone with his own DOJ? Why is he doing that? Why is he promoting in vitro fertilization? He should not be doing these things. But Joe, he's not a Catholic. In vitro fertilization is evil, not just because we're Catholic. It's because babies die. All human beings. This is called natural law. It pertains to all human beings, no matter the creed. It's wrong because it's naturally wrong. So, yeah, no, he shouldn't be promoting that. It's not pro-life. I thought he was the don't go to foreign wars guy. Then what are we doing? Is it because Jared Kushner told him that this is what BB wants, so this is what we got to do? I want him telling BB what to do, not the other way around. Like, you want to protect Israel? Fine, then, but don't do their bidding anytime you're told to. Like, what are we doing? Donald Trump's obviously not the smartest man in the room. Bibi Netanyahu is, clearly. And I would like to see him make a decision and change all that now. Mr. Luke says, right, the argument of better than so-and-so isn't enough for me anymore, especially after the past 2 weeks. I agree. We could, like, we voted for the lesser of two evils, but is that good enough? No, it is not good enough. I changed the subject. Marco and JD. Oh, I didn't change the subject. We didn't bring up Marco and JD. If Marco and JD run against anybody else, would I vote for them? The what?
Oh, I think they'll likely win against Harris or Gavin Newsom or AOC. I mean, because those guys are either lizard people in suits or not terribly intelligent human beings in suits.
Yeah. We'll be stuck with they are better than the other team again. And of course, we will vote for that because you're right, they're better than the other team. But they need to be better than that. JD Vance, who is Catholic, who should know better on mifepristone, on in vitro, has said 0 words against his boss. But Joe, that's his boss. So you can't talk. He's got a conscience. And he's going to stand in front of the Almighty one day and give an account for everything he's done and said and not done and not said. Is he going to pull out but God, Trump was the boss at the time. Is that really going to work? I'm just curious. I don't think so, but who knows? Here's the next question. Is it going to be Marco running for president, or is it going to be JD Vance? I think Marco said he was not going to run if JD said he wanted to. So is it going to be JD for president, Marco for vice president? You guys let me know if you're going to vote for him. He made, who made teeth? Made teeth for Don Cheadle, LeBron James, Tyrese Gibson, to name a few. You have made teeth. Oh, wow. Not glamorous, and I rarely meet the actor. I usually work through their dentist. That's fascinating, though. Really, really fascinating. Good for you. Well, hopefully I have upset at least equally everybody. Now that Dr. Stine bullied me into commenting on Garabandal and Medjugorje today. I wasn't planning on that, so thanks for that, Dr. Stine. You're the best.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
God love you, Dr. Stine. Have a great weekend. Do me a favor, pray for my daughter, Mary Therese. She will be confirmed tomorrow, and pray for the repose of Diane Xavier, my former colleague. God bless you. God love you.